handicap spot today.
Good evening. I will now call this meeting to order. Before we move on to our agenda for the evening, I'd like to take a moment and recognize the police officers and firefighter paramedic who lost their lives in the line of duty in Burnsville this past Sunday. Please join me in a moment of silence to honor Paul Elmstrand, Matthew Rugg, and Adam Finsett. Thank you. Our first order of business is to adopt the agenda for tonight's meeting. Commissioners, is there a motion to adopt the final agenda?
Move to adopt the final agenda.
Second.
Yeah, motion made and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Our next order of business is to adopt the minutes from our January 16th, 2024 Planning Commission meeting. Commissioners, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion?
Second.
Motion made and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. We will now move on to our discussion items. Our first item for discussion this evening is item 3.1. Consider a revised preliminary plat and PUD for the Hunters Brook Creekside development. This item does include a public hearing. I will now turn it over to Associate Planner Will Buhager for a staff presentation, and then I will open the public hearing for those in the chamber this evening that wish to speak on this request.
Thank you, Chair. As stated, this is a preliminary plat or a revised preliminary plat tonight that we're going to be discussing, and a PUD rezoning as well for the Hunters Brook Creekside edition. Again, this area is located in our southern portion of the city. It is going to be located west of our Hunters Brook development that has already been platted and approved for the first and second edition, and it is going to also be west of Highway 11. It is in close proximity to the Schmieg Farm to the north of this development here, and it's going to be to the east of the Marsh Lake Gun Club. It is approximately 58.9 acres there, and it's going to consist of 4 different parcels. Just a little bit of background. Hunters Brook, this was a preliminary plat for 219 lots, was fully approved. That was for 2 phases for first and second edition. After that came Hunters Brook Creekside. This was originally platted and reviewed for 82 lots. It contains 70 lots that were previously approved with the Hunters Brook edition, and 12 large executive lots with private entrances over there on Creekside Lane. We are discussing tonight because their revision is adding 1 additional lot to Hunters Brook Creekside. This executive lot, as well as an alternation for the alteration to the private drives for the proposed southern 10 lots. So we'll get into discussion about that. And here's just a look at Hunters Brook first and second edition here. That was approved earlier last year. And here is Hunters Brook Creekside, what was previously approved as well. The revision tonight is going to be on the southern portion around here. So this land use is proposed for 83 single-family homes. That is the revision and use that's going to be used for this property. And we're looking for approvals tonight for the preliminary plat revision and a rezoning. Here is the previous preliminary plat for Creekside. As you see here, majority is not changing for this for the 70 lots above that was approved with Hunters Brook. The 3 executive lots to the west are not changing as well. It's going to be the revisions down here for the southern 9 lots that are actually going to be turning into southern 10 lots. We're also going to be looking at a change in the private drives as well. You're noticing that there's going to be 3 outlots here that are consisting of those private drives. And this is their revised preliminary plat that they're looking for changing. So now we're seeing an additional lot with those 9, totaling a 10 additional lots, or 10 lots down there, and we're also going to be seeing 2 private drives that are going to be consisting on both portions of this lot. Just looking at our comprehensive plan and Met Council, this area is guided for a low density open space, looking at a density range of 2.25 to 6 units per acre. The project borders are within the future land use designation, so we don't need any comprehensive plan amendment at this time. And the 13 executive lots would fall below allowed density on their own. So we're looking at an overall net density of 2.31 units per acre. So we're actually going to be increasing our units from the original 2.28 when it was the 82 lots. So we're seeing an increase in density there. For the rezoning itself, the lots within the previously approved Hunters Brook, they were already had their own PUD zoning designation for the tradition heritage style homes, where we're seeing 21 tradition and 49 heritage. These were already zoned and had their own PUD designation with the Hunters Brook plats. And for the executive lots, they were being rezoned from agricultural to R1. A PUD was originally not required because the lots met the minimum R1 bulk standards. So they didn't need any new PUD rezoning for that, and they could have just used our standard R1. Rezoning will be required just to add another lot onto those 9 down in the southern portion. So that's why we're requiring the rezoning for tonight. Our site plan review for staff included just looking at the private drives, the parkland dedication, and the tree preservation for this additional lot coming down there. We just wanted to make sure that our trees were going to be still protected, that we weren't going to be any code deviations from that. We also wanted to add in the parkland dedication for this new lot coming in, and we also wanted to revise the private drives. Instead of having 3 of them, adding 2 private drives instead, reducing that amount. So for the revised private drives here, these southern lots originally had 4 private drives with a hammerhead turnaround. These were proposed and these were seen acceptable by our fire chief, but with Tradition Development coming in asking for another lot, we wanted to figure out a way to preserve as many trees as possible down there, and they proposed the idea of just removing the middle private drive, that outlot M as previously shown, and instead opting for 2 private drives that'll be connected, that'll have 5 homes connected to it. This applies at 3 now, and the 2 entrances will be from Creekside Lane. This will require the PUD amendment. Because of that, our code allows for 3 private homes to be connected to 1 private drive. We'll be exceeding that for now 5 going on to 1 private drive. So that is a code deviation we'll be looking at for the PUD amendment. But doing this will preserve a large amount of trees on this property. The private drive for Rolling Hills Parkway for those 3 lots, that will not be changing. That is not the revisions they're looking at tonight, so we won't be seeing any changes for that lot. And then here's just a side-by-side comparison, just looking at the original private drives to the revised private drives. So just taking a peek there. And it'll be this outlot M seen here that will be removed from their new revised plans and opting out just to increase the size of outlot 10 and actually creating outlot 10 here. For their parkland dedication, Hunters Brook Second Edition satisfied the parkland dedication requirements for the first and second phases of Creekside through their land dedication and trail construction. Though with this new executive lot being proposed, we will require a cash in lieu for that parkland dedication for that extra amount being created. The amount they will need to pay for is $4,900 after calculating the difference between what was approved for this development and what is now required. That number is coming from the amount for the total lots we are being proposed, and that's being multiplied from the resident total and then we're getting the actual net density. So we're actually calculating that amount there, and that's how we're getting that amount. For the development, it was proposed at $401,000, and then with this new lot being added, we're looking at around $406,000. And that net density, or that difference, is that's why we're getting that $4,900 there. As for their tree preservation, their plan, we're considering these lots down here to be wooded parcels, just for the amount of trees already located on the parcels. As such, the tree replacement requirement shall be limited to 40 trees per net developable acre within that parcel there. And we're getting that. So as such, we'll be looking at the 40 acres here per parcel that they'll be using for their calculation. Through this and through their own tree preservation calculation, they're looking at around placing 188 trees to meet our own code requirements. And as such, they're planning to just plant these trees later on in the final plat. So they're hoping to replace and replant 188 trees for their creekside development instead of doing cash in lieu. And then here's just an outlook right here of the total trees on the parcels. This is going to be the 3 executive lots right here. This was already done and already looked at back in a previous preliminary plat, and nothing is being changed for those 3 lots. And then down here, here's the previous outlook for those, for the 9 southern lots this is the previous before their new revised plans. And we're just seeing here the amount of trees outlot M, or the middle private drive, is taking up. So now that we're removing that, we'll be saving a good amount of trees on that property. This was looked at and reviewed by our city engineer. She did send in a review comment that was posted with the packet. She made comments for the site and traffic impacts, grading, stormwater management, and the utilities. As to see in here just again the stormwater grading, stormwater and utilities that she's previously discussed, and part of the conditions of approval is meeting her comments. Here are also the fire chief's review comments, and this was just making sure that private drives will be displayed at the point where the private drive meets the public drive, and just looking at some of the properties of the homes, fire emphasis, and that all private drives shall have a no parking fire lanes on them, just to allow fire engines to be able to get in and out in a timely manner. And he also looked at the grade changes for the north private drive as well, for just challenges to fire apparatus. So we included his comments as well in there that they'll be needing to meet. This public hearing, or this was published in the Chanhassen Villager on February 8th. Letters have been sent to adjacent property owners 350 feet from the development borders on February 9th. We have received no comments, no public comments on the plans tonight at all. And we will also be requesting a public hearing as well. Here are the staff recommended conditions for this revised plans and the rezoning. And there is a sample motion. And the developers are in the audience tonight, so they're willing to answer any questions that you may have as well.
Thank you, Will. I will now open the public hearing. Is there anyone in the chambers this evening that wish to comment on this item? If so, speak at the podium, state your name and address. Seeing no one in the audience, can I get a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close the public hearing.
Motion, can I get a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Public hearing is closed. I will now ask if the applicant would wish to speak.
Good evening, Commissioners. Pat Rossi with Tradition Development.
here before you to discuss the Hunters Brook Creekside project, and in particular, our changes tonight, as staff has indicated, are associated with that southern parcel, the parcel we call Guest Stack South Woods. And I'll say that we've been working on that parcel since mid-2022, I think, and some of the predecessors of the staff here tonight. Different layouts, we've done a number of them, and I think we initially submitted for a much higher density project back in the fall of 2022. We couldn't get that plan to meet the tree preservation requirements with all of the lots and the streets and the typical city width street that comes through, and having to build ponds to contain all that stormwater. We just couldn't get it to work. So we went back, worked with staff, came up with a lower density design, and had that approved a few months ago. But when we got into the weeds on that one, we ran into trouble in particular. Not anything insurmountable, but the location of the sewer stubs along Marsh Drive were set at two specific locations. And to get back from our development three private drives we looked at, we would have been running parallel to Marsh Drive, very deep sewer, taking out more trees. So we came up with initially an alternative design that would have put a loop up through those two private cul-de-sacs and closed it across, but staff preferred a two cul-de-sac layout, and that's what we're here with tonight. We think it does a really good job of allowing for development, but preserving the trees. And on a wooded parcel, the city has a requirement to preserve a minimum of 20% of the trees. With this new layout, we're preserving 59% of the trees after the lots are graded out. So I think it does a good job, and I think it's the best option for this particular parcel. So appreciate your time tonight, and I'm here for any other questions that you may have, along with Dave Nash from our site engineer, Alliant Engineering. Thank you.
I have one question that sounds stupid, but why do you feel the need to add one additional home in there?
Well, we think that the spot that we're wanting to hit with these lots, we're calling them acreage lots. The additional lot helps with our project expense, and on the east side, we do have to run in a deep sewer, so it helps with that. It creates 10 lots that are all roughly an acre in size, and we just think that there's room for that extra lot out there.
Okay.
Can you pull up that survey?
The other lots, otherwise it would have been one home with a outsized lot compared to the other 8 in that case, right?
With the one additional lot?
Yeah.
I don't know that any of them would have been marginally different. It's just that, we're looking for that sweet spot of an acre in size, and with the size of the parcel that we have here, we can get 10 lots that will have right at an acre apiece. So
Got it.
they're all pretty evenly sized on either layout.
What's your width on those private streets?
I want to say 18 feet on the private streets. No, 22. Sorry, I'll have the engineer talk here. 22 to 24, Dave?
Yeah.
And there'll be no parking, right? I think is what,
Right. No, I think the fire contingency was no parking on any of the streets, right?
That's correct. That way to just allow, in case of emergency, vehicles can get in and out pretty quickly without having to worry about vehicles on there.
I guess to me, my concern is that kind of that upper middle lot, that's gonna have a long private driveway, private driveway.
That concern was expressed in the comments as well. And, you know, the length of that private drive and the access for fire equipment. So we will be examining that as we get to final plat and extending the private drive out before we get to the actual driveway to those 2 units, I think. towards
Does
the
that,
center.
excuse me, sorry. Does that turnaround need to kind of be close to the terminating property on the drive to make that work?
Right, the hammerhead
Yeah.
turnaround would slide along with that then to go to the very end.
Got it.
Let me go back a little bit to the addition of the one property. So if I understand it, by reconfiguring all of this, you're gonna save 58% of the trees that are there versus 28% by not adding that? It doesn't seem to make a lot of sense.
No, I think we're going to be saving 58% of the trees on this layout.
With the additional house.
Well, just, I'm not saying it's due to the additional lot. I was just comparing it back to the very first plan that we did that had 42 lots, 42 villa-style lots on this same parcel. I think we were required to save by the wooded parcel ordinance 20% of the trees, and that 42 lot layout from over a year ago, we weren't hitting that requirement. So I don't know I don't know specifically what the preservation was on the previous plan, and I don't think we had taken it to the level of detail where we had graded out each of the pads, so I can't provide a direct comparison to that previous layout from October, but I know that looking at the calculations prior to the meeting tonight, this plan that's up on the screen right now is going to preserve 58% of the wooded, 59% of the wooded areas.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The way I see it, you're saving those extra trees by creating fewer streets that might possibly be skinnier streets. I guess that would be my take on it. But yeah, my biggest concern is the access for that middle top house, or whatever.
In the middle bottom.
Yeah,
Third
it's
top.
like,
Yeah.
how are, it'll be funky, but
What was the reasoning behind not having a loop?
The sewer loop?
I can't recall what the reasoning behind not having the loop was.
The reason behind not having that additional loop would be more additional tree loss.
That was one possibility, additional tree loss. I think initially we liked it better because it would have enabled us to pull all the sewer along to the west and tie in to the stub at the western street that is located right at that western intersection with Marsh Drive. So I think it does save additional trees over the layout here rather than completing the loop. But with this layout, the eastern connection, the eastern private street, there's going to be a parallel sewer run adjacent to Marsh Drive to intersect with the sewer stub that's been put in place with the construction of Marsh Drive and the project to the south, the Marsh Hollow development.
So who didn't like the connecting loop? Was it you, or was it staff, or was it safety or fire, or?
I don't recall. I know we submitted a sketch plan
You did?
with that option, but I know that we gravitated towards this design upon staff.
But did you just say that this design is more difficult because you can't just pull the sewer right along the whole loop?
You know, it presents a little bit more difficulty for the sewer, but as staff said, it results in a savings of a few trees by not pushing the, pulling the sewer through that area. You'd have to cut a relatively deep trench to install the sewer, and you would lose some more trees with that option. I don't have a direct comparison, but just generally speaking.
Got it.
Have a comment, Will?
Was this the area where the sewer has to be 30 feet deep or something like that, or is that a different area?
To my knowledge, this is the area. There's a trunk sewer that was installed along Marsh Drive. There's a
Seems deep to me. I thought they were like 12 or 15, but I don't know.
That's the standard depth is 10 to 11 feet. So this is a trunk line. They'll service land area to the west. There's a hill out in the middle of Marsh Drive adjacent to our property where I think the sewer is over 35 feet deep, maybe approaching 40. So
just get the equipment in there to tear it all up. You're going to be doing a lot of regrading and destruction.
yeah, and our site, the grade slopes off as you go north and towards the creek. So we start out with our sanitary sewers back in the development at minimum depth, 10 feet, but they're going against the grade as they come out towards the road, and it gets deeper there too.
I think my only comment on it was that if the loop is safer, easier to develop, and more sensical, like logical, I just didn't hear anything that really said why it wasn't pursued.
The reasoning why the loop would have been a little bit more difficult in this situation is because a loop would have needed to be public because of the number of lots that were technically on it if we ended up connecting those two drives together. And staff was not supportive of this road width and design as a public versus private road. So that's why we're instead opting.
Public road.
It would have made it a public road then at that time. And instead of opting out for these two private drives, creates the category where we don't have the public we don't have to take care of it then.
But the private roads through city ordinance, you can only have 3 lots on it, right? So
Yep,
then
that is
we're
correct.
still jacking it up a little bit here.
That's why that's why we have the variance.
So these residents have to get private snow removal
That's correct.
on that?
The development, Huntersbrook has an HOA that covers,
Handles it.
in the existing portions of Huntersbrook, it's not a full-service HOA. It's a partial HOA where it covers the landscaping and the clubhouse. These 2 areas, the 10 lots on the south and 3 lots off to the west, will be an enhanced HOA where they'll come with snow removal service and then the ongoing maintenance of the private roadways as well. So their HOA fee for these areas will be higher than those of the typical lots within the remainder of the Huntersbrook development.
Yeah, this might be speaking out of turn, but just knowing many neighborhoods that I've visited, people have parties, put in swimming pools. People are going to park on the street, whether that's safe or not. One way to possibly help mitigate that is to make a wider driveway type situation for each one of these places. I know that's probably not something to necessarily consider today, but something to think about maybe down the road so that there is a capability for people to access their homes and park in those areas. Because I can see, these are big places. People are going to want to entertain and show off their nice wooded properties, and there'll be 10 cars parked on the street. But that would be my street concern. Anyway, something to think about.
It's something we can consider with the final plat, maybe
Yeah,
putting a guest parking area on each of the lots. These will be big homes. There'll be minimum of 3-car garage, probably some with 4, possibly more. So there'll be a number of spots out in front of the garage, but we can work with staff on something there to address your
Yeah,
concerns.
just something to address before you take care of it early versus late.
Right.
An ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure.
It'd be great if that hammerhead, one side was a driveway for one and the other side was, so that could be not just a lost paving, right?
Right. Yeah, we'll take a look at that and see if there's an opportunity to incorporate the hammerhead into the driveway.
And I can see, these are our roads. We take care of them. We can park wherever the heck we want.
Yeah.
These are all our driveways. Again, that's private road stuff that'll be in the homeowners association stuff, but just thinking out loud as I look at the design of it, that's kind of my biggest concern is how those private roads are looked at by the homeowners. And you'll have one person that will be very strict with the rules and 9 others that aren't. Anyway, that's all. Otherwise, I looked at it as adding one lot. Taking out a street or taking out a drive, private drive. It's not a huge difference in my book, but if it helps with your bottom line, gets the project
Save
done,
the trees.
saves the trees.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
What, if I could ask you guys, our staff, what was staff's like 2 biggest concerns with this design versus anything else? There's a laundry list of them when I looked at it.
Our main concern was just the tree preservation and the number of lots on those private drives, just kind of from a planning perspective at least, that's where our concerns came from. Public safety was also another one just with those drives as well from the fire chief. So that was his reasoning for just not allowing other vehicles to be parked on there.
Yeah, and there was something about a grade on one of them too that I saw that was too steep for possibly too steep if it wasn't graded properly.
Mm-hmm.
So, and, if you take care of that during final plat, engineering side, I don't think it's an insurmountable thing at all.
Yep, and those comments were also put in the engineer's memo that will be part of a condition of approval for this.
That's what I assumed, but just wanted to get your opinions before we wrap anything up, so. You guys have anything else?
I guess my only concern is just the issue with private streets and that somewhere down the road that these homeowners don't try to say, want the city to take them over. Or, we run into that quite a bit on a lot of these developments. After 15 years, they try to come back to the city and say, well, we're paying taxes in the city, and why do we have to pay to redo our own streets, or why do we have to pay to do our own snow removal? And and it's all, even though it's in an HOA and whatever, it's what they come back 15 years later and say, our streets need to be redone. Why are we paying for it? And that's, I guess, the biggest thing is having that language that continues in their home, HOA developments, that's what it is. And that's why you have the acres that you have, or, so forth.
Will this be part of the other developments, like from an HOA standpoint? Because that brings up the
Separate.
Well, that'll be a total. Those 10 homes will be on their own HOA, correct?
13, or along with the other.
The other 3.
The commissioners, the 13 homes will be a part of the master association, the master HOA for the greater development. So they'll have access to the clubhouse that's out there and the amenities there. But they'll be part of a new sub-association, and the financing or the dues and the maintenance requires will be spelled out in that sub-association document that we'll be sharing with city staff as we get to final plat.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Because I can just see the other homeowners saying, why are we paying for these streets to be resurfaced in 20 years or 25? Just building off of you, Commissioner Kuhn. So, thank you.
So a bit more about that. The increase in dues over the standard dues for these acreage lots on the private drives, they'll be, the dues will be calculated to take on those future maintenance obligations. So there'll be a cash account with the HOA that will be used for those improvements. It won't be an assessment by the HOA.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This motion sample, the first part of it, hold the public hearing on the request, and we don't need to make that as part of the motion tonight, right? Because this is the public hearing, or is it part of it?
I will include that there to make sure that we had a public hearing held for this item.
Okay. I would make a motion to recommend the city council approve the revised Hunters Brook Creekside preliminary plat and PUD rezoning by tradition development with the conditions and findings as proposed by staff.
You got a motion?
Second.
Yeah, motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That concludes our discussion items for this evening. Moving on to our miscellaneous section of our agenda. Staff, is there any miscellaneous items for tonight?
None for us.
Commissioners, do you have any miscellaneous items?
No.
Hearing no more items for this evening, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Yeah, motion,
Second.
second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. We are adjourned.